In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Magna Carta MST fountain pen. I'll go over the specs, I will do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this pen coming up. So this is the Magna Carta MST fountain pen. This pen was designed by my friend Neil at the Wasted Paper YouTube channel. I definitely recommend checking out his channel. He does a lot of fountain pen reviews. He also collaborates and now designs a lot of different fountain pens. So he's always doing a cool new project. So definitely check out his channel. Magna Carta is a fountain pen company out of India. They've been around since 2014, and they're really most famous for their flex nibs, which this pen has. Many consider them to be the best modern flex nib out there. So I was very curious to try one, and when I heard Neil was doing a pen with them, I was like, all right, well, that'll be my first Magna Carta. So this particular model, or Neil, changed a lot of things from their existing pens. You'll notice this pen has a lot more of a taper than the typical Mag 600, which I believe is their most famous, most popular model. It also has a different clip. There's more trim rings. He also worked with Magna Carta to change their sort of signature stacked resin material to be a bit more bold. So like each of the rings or colors here that are stacked are a bit thicker than the typical Magna Carta stacked resin. So you get a very, I would say, very striking looking pen. This is definitely a bright pen. You've got, pink and sort of a bluish purple working together. And this model, this color is called the Cheshire, after the Cheshire cat from Alice in Wonderland. And I don't normally show the boxes, but Neil designed this box and it's pretty cool. It's designed to look like the first edition of Alice in Wonderland. Have the Magna Carta logo here, and then he modified that to have a cat included in it. So you got the whiskers and the little nose there. It's pretty cool looking. It does have gilt edges. And in the set, you do get a bottle of ink. This is Waringle. I don't know how you say this brand, but this is their Cheshire Cat ink. I haven't had a chance to use this particular ink just yet, but pretty cool box set. And then you have a more of a standard inner box here. And then you do get a warranty card. I believe these have a 5-year warranty, and Neil signed all of the warranty cards, which is pretty cool. And this is the first edition here. So pretty neat. This, book box does definitely remind me of the Mont Blanc Writers series, because their boxes are also designed to look like books, but this is pretty cool. It's definitely a different form factor. It does say Hatch on the back here because this is a collaboration with EndlessPens and their Hatch program, which they work with artists and content creators to come up with custom, special products. So neat box, neat package set. Now, this pen with the ink is $530 retail. At the moment that I'm filming this, the first edition is all sold out. Now, let's just walk through the pen. So, starting with the finial here, we have the Magna Carta logo, and again, it has the sort of addition of the cat whiskers and nose there that Neil designed. I think that looks really cool. It's a nice little Easter egg. And then the cap here is widest here, and it's a little bit hard to see some of the details just because of this stacked resin. It is just so bold, so it's kind of hard to see like the end of the cap, which is right here. But it tapers towards the top of the cap. The stacked material here, as I said before, Neil worked with Magna Carta to give it sort of a more bold appearance, which it definitely has. This is an extremely bold looking pen. So you have this sort of pink pearlescent sort of shimmery material, and then you have a blue purple, or more of a, I would say it's more purple, but it's a bluish purple, which has some more, I would say, more depth to it than the pink. It looks really cool, especially up close. There's a lot of just depth to this material. Now, the clip is stamped metal. It is a roller clip, and it does roll. Fit and finish of the metal trim on this pen is okay. It's not amazing. I do see, some rough edges here on the plating. We also have some, I don't know if it's tarnish or what, but there are these little black marks on the side of the wheel here. Now, I will say from a design standpoint, the one thing that I'm not in love with on this pen is the clip. It's really freaking big. I mean, this is a honker of a clip. It's just not the most elegant. I believe this is a clip from one of the Magna Carta pens. I think it's called the Traditions. Really not great. Now, Neil, to his credit, did design a custom clip that looked really cool that also integrated the Magna Carta logo. I'll try to put a picture of that up on the screen just so you guys can see that, but I think technically it wasn't feasible, or at least not in the scope of this particular project. So if it had that original clip, I do think it would be a bit more attractive. It's just, this is just such a big clip. That's the one thing that bugs me on this pen. But the rest of the pen I do really like. On the cap ring here, it says Magna Carta, and then it says established 2014 because the company's from 2014. And then it's also engraved here. Can we see this? It says first edition for these first edition pens. Cap ring ends right about here. And then we have these two extra trim rings here that I think look really nice. Definitely gives the pen, I think, a premium appearance. And then it tapers quite a bit towards the tail. And we have another trim ring here and nothing on the bottom. I do believe it is a flat bottom, so it'll stand on the desk, and I think it'll stand on the cap as well here. Okay. Yeah, so flat tops and bottoms. Neil adjusted the, like, what would have been normally, I think, like the Mag 600. It has a lot more taper than that pen, and the reason for that was so that it posts really, really nicely. This is, like a Aurora Optima level comfort here, where it posts securely far down onto the body, and then you have a big grip section that flares out towards the end here. The grip section towards the flare here, I'm not sure. I can feel some roughness where it flares out. Now, when in use, you're not really going to feel that, but I would have expected the material to stay smooth all the way to the edge of this stacked resin material, and there is some roughness there, but you don't feel it in use. Now, in terms of capping and uncapping this pen, I forgot to do that. Let's see how long it takes to uncap this. That's 1, 2. Whoa. Okay, so that's like 2 3/4. So it's a decent amount of threading there. I don't know. Honestly, I never noticed it. There are some pens. I have like a Montegrappa Historia pen where I feel like, wow, I'm really turning this cap a ton. Whereas this, I don't know. I haven't noticed that, but that is definitely more turns than I would say I typically like to see. 1 or 1.5 is, I would say, more normal. Here is the number 6 nib, which I think looks very nice. We have the Magna Carta logo, we have a heart-shaped breather hole, and then it's pretty clean. Now on the side, it does say 14 karat 585. That doesn't look the cleanest to me. I think that maybe is, I don't know, is that done with laser and then this is stamped? I'm not 100% sure. But overall, I do think this is a very good looking nib. We have an ebonite feed. It is a threaded number 6 Jova nib, so these do unscrew very easily. So you can put them on other pens, or you can put a different pen a different nib on this pen if you want to change it. Very good looking nib. I will say it's a very thin nib. I'll do a comparison with another nib in a little bit, but let's do the measurements here. So we're looking at, I would say 156 posted, and then unposted, looking at 132, and then capped, looking at about 141, 142. So this is a big pen. I think most of the Magna Carta pens are quite large. Let's do the grip section width here. So we'll go for the widest point right before the threading, and at 11.7, and then before it flares out, 10.3. So nice big grip section for sure. And we'll do the weight, uncapped, 19, oh no, sorry, 14.66, so pretty lightweight. I do tend to use this posted. It posts so nicely and it's balanced well. 25.8 grams. So it's got a nice weight to it. It feels solid, this pen. It's, it's a turned pen. It's not injection molded. So you have that, strong feeling to it. It's really got a nice quality feeling overall. Now let's do some comparisons to some other pens. Here it is with a Mont Blanc 149. Not quite as big as a 149, not quite as wide, but this is a big pen. Here it is with a Pelikan M805. So this is a bit wider and a bit longer than that. And then here it is with a Joya Bella Vista. The Bella Vista is a fatter pen, but roughly the same size. And then here it is with a Aurora Optima. So definitely a full-size pen. And then just to compare with the Aurora Optima, because I think these pens have a similar feeling to them with the way that they post down. When they're posted, they're almost the same size, which I think is very interesting because of all of this taper, you can really fit it far down into the cap there. So in practice, even though this looks like a bigger pen by a good margin, when posted in use, these are almost the same size pens, which I think is pretty interesting. So comfort level, I'd say this is definitely like a 10 in the same way that the Optima is a 10. Now, one thing I do want to compare are two different flex nibs. So I've got the Magna Carta flex nib here, and what I consider to be also, I think, one of the very best modern flex nibs here. This is the Fountain Pen Revolution 14K Ultra Flex nib. Now, both of these nibs are JoWo number 6 threaded nibs. They're both made in India. But I think the way that they go about the flex is different. Like the Magna Carta nib for sure is prettier because it doesn't have these cutouts on the side. It also has, I think, a prettier feed, which is more flat and cut. But if we look closely here, the material, the gold material is much, much thinner on the Magna Carta than the FPR, Fountain Pen Revolution. The Fountain Pen Revolution has more of a normal gold thickness, where the Magna Carta is very, very thin. Now, after having used both of these a good amount now, I've noticed some differences, which I'll just point out, and then we'll do a writing sample. Visually, I definitely think the Magna Carta nib is prettier. Also, I think out of the box, with my first impressions of both these nibs, the Magna Carta nib was more of a wow. This thing really feels like a wet noodle. There's so much flexibility with just the absolute lightest of pressure. The Fountain Pen Revolution nib, it achieves its flex in a different way. The slit goes really, really far up into the base of the nib, and then you have these cutouts. Now, the benefit of that is that this nib flexes more than this nib. So you will get wider lines out of this nib, and there's more snapback because I think I'm just guessing here. The thicker material, the thicker gold material just gives it more of a snapback. So For regular writing, and I think for most people, this nib is going to be easier to handle, whereas this requires a really light hand to not get any flexibility. If you're somebody that says, you know what, I like a flex nib, I really love a wet noodle, this could be a very appealing option. But if you're somebody that wants to use the pen more every day and doesn't always want to flex the nib, I think this is probably the better choice, and there is better snapback. The other thing that I don't love about this nib is that the feed, at least the way that I hold it, if I flex it too much, the feed will hit the paper and create a mark on the paper, where I don't really have that issue with this nib. So prettier nib. I think it's more of a wow when you first use this because it is so crazy soft and wet noodle-like. But after using them both a lot, I do tend to prefer the Fountain Pen Revolution nib. You get more flexibility, and I feel like I just have more control, more snapback, and I don't have the issue where the feed is hitting the paper. For the writing sample, I'm going to be using a Papermind Tomoe River hardcover notebook. These notebooks are excellent for fountain pens and for Blake's Broadcast viewers and subscribers. You can get 10% off with code BB10 at checkout. This is the Magna Carta MST, and this is a Flex Fine, and this is Aurora Black. I'll do fast writing. Nope. I think that was me. Let's try that again. No. Fast writing is a bit tough for this pen, it seems like. But if you go a bit slower, it'll keep up. Now, in terms of flexibility, this is a very soft, wet noodle-like pen. It really is definitely the softest of any modern fountain pen nib that I've used. Now, when you push on it a bit too much, the feed will touch the bottom of the paper and you'll get these kind of stray like smudges there from the feed touching the paper. But it really is very impressively flexible. And here we go, we have the feed touching the paper. Now, in terms of reverse writing, it's relatively smooth. Pretty impressed with how smooth this is. I can feel it catching a little bit, but very, very smooth. And you know, with no pressure, with this nib, you really need to do like just absolutely the lightest touch to get it to write, you know, without any line variation, because even just a little bit of pressure and this nib flexes. So in that sense, it's very, very flexible. Now what I want to do is I want to compare it to the Fountain Pen Revolution 14 karat extra fine flex nib. In terms of flexibility, this nib has more flexibility. You're going to get a wider line when you really push on it. Whereas this is pretty much the max for the Magna Carta. Also, for regular writing, I think this nib, you can use it in a way where, you know, it's just not really going to flex very much if you write with a very light hand. And then if you apply some pressure, you can get more flexibility out of it. And for me, I go back and forth between, you know, which of these two nibs I like better. The Magna Carta is more of a wow in a sense, but it's also more of a wow in that extremely soft. But I also think it's going to be more polarizing. It's going to be harder for people to use regularly. I mean, some people will love it. Some people will struggle with it a bit more. Whereas the Fountain Pen Revolution nib is just a bit more forgiving while also being more flexible. So when it comes to the flexible nibs here, I think that the Magna Carta, just in regular writing with very, normal to almost no pressure, will give you a lot of line variation like we see here. Whereas the Fountain Pen Revolution one, you're going to need to push on it a bit more. But when you do push on it, you get more flex. So you can get a wider line out of it. And this Fountain Pen Revolution pen is basically out of ink. Um, uh, and I will say that the feeds on both of these actually do keep up pretty well. I mean, this was very, very fast. But in normal writing, and if you flex, with a little bit of, slowness, it's really not going to railroad on you. So that part is really good. Overall, this Magna Carta nib is the softest modern flex nib I've ever used, and it might be the softest fountain pen nib I've used, period. I've used some very soft dip pen nibs, but this is just incredibly soft. It does have that wet noodle feel. I will say that the snapback is not quite like vintage wet noodle, but overall it's very, very impressive. I think this will be the more polarizing nib, whereas this, pretty much anybody's going to be able to use this without much trouble. If you want to add flair to just standard writing and you have a relatively light hand, this will do it, whereas this you need to push a little bit harder. But when you do push harder, you do get wider lines out of this. So that's pretty much my comparison there. Both are very impressive nibs. So what are my pros and cons for the Magna Carta MST fountain pen? Well, I think the big pro here, the main reason to consider a Magna Carta is the flex nib. This is a really soft, wet noodle-like nib. With no pressure, you're getting line variation. I can't think of any other modern fountain pen nib that does that. So in that sense, it's really a wow. It has a Yovo number 6 compatible nib unit, so you can put this on other pens. You can switch other nibs onto this pen. That's really, really awesome. I also really like the overall comfort of this pen. Neil did an amazing job with how well this cap posts down onto the body and making a big comfortable grip section. This is, 10 out of 10 in terms of comfort. It's, right up there with my favorite pen, the Aurora Optima, in terms of comfort. So really knocked that out of the park for sure. I like the stacked resin. It's very bold. This is a strong color for sure, but it goes very, very well with the Cheshire theme. It's, perfect for that. Now, in terms of cons, not a cheap pen, $530 if you want the set with the ink. That said, you're getting a pretty remarkable nib and you're getting a very comfortable pen and something that's, kind of fun. It has whimsy to it with the cat logo on there and just the overall Cheshire theme. So I do like that. It feels solid. It feels quite good quality overall, but for sure it is pricey. Other cons, I would say the fit and finish of the metal trims is okay. It's not amazing. So I would like to see that improved for a pen of this price for sure. The other thing is this clip, it's too big. It's just a real honker of a clip. And I think, future versions of the MST, maybe there could be some refinement just to get something that looks maybe a little bit more elegant. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty good looking pen and it's a very special writing experience for sure. But that's pretty much it. Do you guys have this pen? Do you like this pen? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen paper and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much, and until next time.